A prominent Reformed Protestant teacher named R.C. Sproul Jr., a Calvinist, was recently exposed for having accessed and given his email address to the adultery website Ashley Madison. That's a site people use in order to locate secret partners for adultery. The names of millions of Ashley Madison adulterers were recently exposed through a hack, and this became mainstream news. After the news of the Ashley Madison hack broke, Sproul Jr. admitted that he accessed the site and deliberately gave his email address to it. R.C. Sproul Jr. is the son of R.C. Sproul, the head of Ligonier Ministries, a Reformed Protestant organization. Sproul Jr., the Calvinist exposed by the hack of the adultery website, was one of the teaching fellows at Ligonier Ministries. He's, quote, an ordained Presbyterian minister. He has planted a Presbyterian, quote, church. He has served as, quote, pastor and elder. He was rector of Reformation Bible College, and he was heavily involved in a number of other Reformed Protestant teaching outreaches. Considering that Protestantism is a false religion with a false and unbiblical message of salvation, it's not a surprise that one of their prominent teachers would commit such a mortal sin, and recognize that a person who went so far as to give his email address to such a site, as Sproul Jr. did, was almost certainly committing numerous other mortal sins of a similar nature to even reach that point. Sproul Jr. claims that he simply accessed the adultery website and gave his email address to it, but never actually engaged in an adulterous affair in person with anyone. But who knows if that's true? Regardless, what he did is a mortal sin. According to actual Christianity and the teaching of the Bible, such an action is incompatible with the possession of justification. A person who commits such a sin is in a state of damnation by that very fact. He cannot be in a justified state while committing such a sin or looking at pornography even once. See our documentary on justification for more on these matters. Sproul Jr.'s presence on the adultery website raises a number of interesting questions, such as, did he consider himself to be a saved Christian? Obviously, he's not a true Christian, but he would have claimed to be a true Christian who is assured of his salvation. Reformed Protestants like him hold to the unbiblical doctrines of faith alone and once justified, always justified. They say that their, quote, saving faith is demonstrated by their works and their life in the Spirit. Well, does Sproul Jr.'s life demonstrate his, quote, saving faith? Are his works and actions those of a, quote, true believer? Do Sproul Jr.'s fellow Protestants think he's a true Christian who has saving faith? If so, how often can one commit adultery and still be considered a true Christian whose life gives evidence of actual justification? Do you see how stupid their theology is? Can someone, according to them, commit a sin like adultery weekly, monthly, yearly, and still be considered justified? What's the limit? Putting aside the theological arguments, think about the issue in your heart honestly. Deep down, everyone, including a person who teaches Protestantism, knows that such a theology is nonsense. Everyone knows that gravely sinful actions such as adultery can and will impact one's standing with God and whether one has salvation. That's the teaching of the Bible. Faith alone and once saved, always saved are lies. The question of how often, according to false Protestant salvation theology, one can commit a sin like adultery and still be considered a, quote, truly justified Christian was one of the points covered in our documentary on justification. I cited Reformed Protestant teacher Michael Kruger, who says that people could commit periods of heinous sins and remain justified. According to him, periods of adultery are not incompatible with the possession of justification. That's not the teaching of the New Testament. That's not Christianity. That's a doctrine of demons. And it should be noted that I'm not making the argument that the action of one person refutes an entire religion, when the religion itself condemns the gravely sinful activity as incompatible with salvation. That would be illogical. No, what I'm covering is totally different. Namely, that since Protestant theology itself teaches that people can commit such grave sins and remain justified, the gravely sinful activity of its adherents, combined with that teaching, serves to prove that their theology is antithetical to the New Testament's clear teaching that grave sins like adultery exclude people from salvation. So, I felt it was important to do a short video on this issue because it's another example of the fatal flaw in Protestant salvation theology and how that is exposed not only by biblical arguments, but also by real-life examples. Moreover, it was important to cover this because it doesn't seem like some Reformed Protestants are eager to share this news, and we can understand why.